So when I rebuild these, this is what it looks like when I'm done. I do 100 of these at a time. If I did one of these, it would take me 2 hours to take. So to take it apart, to take all this out, and to take the bearings out and clean it. So if you don't clean this, any residue or sand or garbage or dried out grease is going to be in here. And what happens is these don't release. See how they snap back nice? I talked to a guy from Saginaw Steering one day for hours at a seminar. And this here center pin presses in there is a dowel pin, and it's center ground, which means it's a machined part that's perfect. And that's steel. It's not hardened, it's close, but it's not. This here is cast steel. So steel and steel will rust. So sometimes you pull this lever and it doesn't release back. You know, right now you can see it moves. Some of them are, so if you get in the car and grab the steering wheel and it drops down, that's what's wrong. So what I do is I bore the hole out in here 3/1000ths. And it's not sloppy. I oil them, so there's oil in there. It's going to last you your lifetime. But I clean the bearings. When this is out, I take a die grinder with a small wire wheel that expands, and I polish up that race and look at it. If it's all galled up from a rusty bearing, I throw it away. I'm actually building a fixture right now to hold this, to push the bearing race in here, in and out, and the same thing down here. And the same thing, I mean, I've got probably $1,000 already in this fixture. It's going to push this pin out with a hardened bolt, and it'll push it back in. So I'm not tapping on it with a hammer and a punch. And right now I can do one in a vise without damaging it, but every so often you're going to break one. If you bend this, that's where the pin goes through. The jaws are going to be crooked and they're not going to lock right. So then you might as well throw it away. But this here collects grease behind it. This is not grease. I don't grease them until I'm ready to assemble it, just because you're handling the grease. So I leave this, there's a little play in here. I leave a little play in there, and when I'm ready to assemble it, I put some transmission oil in here. I turn it over and I put it in here, and it works in there. And then I pull this back like so and expose the teeth, and I put a little grease in here and I run it up and down, and it works like butter.
Okay.
So if you notice, this has got a real wide opening here. In 69 and 70, that pin is small and they break off. It breaks this cam off. I could show you the two pieces. I've got hundreds of them, but I prefer to put this in, but it's hard to find the actuator rods with the big pin, so I have to use what I have. But this here pin is a late model. It's reduced right here, and it's larger up here. The original ones, this is probably 78 or newer. 77 it is. So this here is a relief for dirt. So this goes into an aluminum housing. So you can grab one, I can slide it on there. I don't machine the last hole. We'll see if this one sticks. That one slid right on. Okay, so if this here pin sticks, your steering wheel is not going to lock. But what's worse than that is one day it's going to get tired in the down position because of the spring, and it's going to pop up and be frozen when you're driving. Then you can't turn the steering wheel.
What?
So that's why I take it apart. Nobody that I know of takes these apart. That rebuilds them. There's 2 other major rebuilders. We'll just leave them anonymous right now. They look at it and they say, well, you don't have to do that, Chuck. You can just soak it in lacquer thinner and get the paint off and paint it. Well, that's not the important part. It's the function, you know. So I'm the only one that takes them apart, and that's why. So I do 100 of these, and I might get 3 or 4 there's something wrong with it. So it's kind of like rebuilding a starter. The starter shop, the motor shop, takes 100 apart and they mix up all the parts. Well, I'm doing the same thing. Now I start to put this together and this doesn't work. I'll set it aside and I'll grab another one. Okay. And then one day I'll take those 4 or 5 when I got nothing to do, and I'll take it out and I'll roll this on a flat machinist platform, and it'll have a loop in it. That's why it's bent. That's why it's locking up.
Okay.
So, you know, you find the problem with it. I don't throw it away. I can usually come up with the answer why something doesn't work. But so that's really the heart of the tilt. It's
all right. So like I said, it looked like to me.
You were out here once before on some Wildcat stuff. Maybe not.
No. It looked like somebody went through this already to me, but I'm not 100% sure. But see, I want to paint all of this, so
right. I mean,
I ordered the thing, yeah, I ordered the pin puller. It haven't got to the house yet.
Well, so I sell this exchange. I can pull this apart, and you can put it in and pound the pins back in. It's pretty easy. I mean, I can show you how to take it apart. It takes a minute.
All right.
Now, are you going to run a floor shift or a column shift?
I'm running a floor shift.
Okay, so it's no secret you can cut this
I
off.
was going to cut it off since I do body work.
Okay, so you can use Duraglass. You can use a JB weld, works real good. It hardens up. You can't paint over it, so I mean glue the hole shut, but put a pin in that hole that I showed you and put a little piece of sheet metal in there so it doesn't run in, because if the filler runs in, it's going to hit the side of this and it's not going to turn. And this has to turn or your interlock isn't going to work. You know, when you put the floor shifter in park, this will bring this right up so it locks.
Okay.
Yeah, let me I guess the smart way would take it back and pull the pins out, then you can see the inside of this, and we can take this rod out and I can change the end for you.
All right.
Let's do that. So now that you see how much work it is you got to do, you're going to save money because you can do it yourself. But I charge 3 hours at $75 an hour and an hour for paint.
Yeah.
If you paint parts, there's no way you can sandblast and clean and paint all that. It's just that I got a big machine and we do a lot at one time. So.
Yeah, and the car I'm doing is gonna be custom painted, like the color of the car.
Right.
So.
And you'll be able to detail it when it's all apart. You'll be able to paint it individually. It'll look much nicer. Not some cobbled together, you know. One of my competitors was at a show, and he had a column like this for a 70 Chevelle, and this bracket is different. Okay, they changed it because the switches are longer. When you buy a new switch, if that plug's longer, it doesn't mean you got the wrong switch. It means that they don't make it anymore. So all you got to do is unplug each wire and put it in your old plug, and it works fine.
I like that. You built the.
No, that's a Kent Moore tool, and if you look at the holes on it, after 50 years it wears out. See how the holes are all wore out and slotted?
Yeah, yeah.
So, not that it's going to happen anytime soon, but I started building this workbench for doing columns. I've got come up with a new idea every year, but I haven't finished it yet. And I've got 3 vices, 2 in the box and this one. I'm going to be able to do 3 columns to assemble at once.
Oh, wow.
And these are that plate right there. I had these bent up.
Building, so okay. See, I thought
3 at a time. Well, I find repetition. If I got to do everything start to finish, you got a good chance of mistake. But if I put the lower shift bowl on each one, you know, and then I do 3 of them, and I can do the next step, you got a better chance of it being correct. Okay, so we need a screwdriver here. So those pin pullers, I buy them from Snap-on. There's Kent Moore, a bunch of people make them, but you can see I've got a couple of them.
Okay.
I got about 8 or 10 of them because as they break, he doesn't always have one on the truck, so I got a couple of spares. So this is the first thing you do is you push on this spring like so and turn it.
And
This
get that
comes
spring
out
out
and
of
there's
there.
a piston on the end that goes into a pin, so you can't lose that. We'll put that in a bag for you when we're done. So I was telling you, the first column I had about 70 or 80 hours in doing it, and I couldn't get it apart. So I saw the threaded hole and I put a screw in there and I took a dent puller and pulled it out. Well, then I found this. Kent Moore made this. Kent Moore makes specialty tools for GM. That's who made this. And they made this, and then one day Snap-on made it, and somebody asked me, I says, go on the Snap-on truck and ask for that part number and they'll sell you one. So it's basically screws in the hole like this, and you tighten up that 1/2-inch nut, and the pin's out.
Pull the pins out. Now, what do you, when you put them back in, the pins, you got to use new ones or?
No, nope. It's a It's a steel pin going in a die cast, so it's a nice fit because it's a little swollen
Oh,
from
okay.
age.
Okay.
So there's a little trick I'll show you. When I take this out, I'll put it back together real quick, or show you at least. So that pin's out. I usually take this out because we're going to be in here in a minute. This is a little dust protector to keep the dust out of the inside of the column around your tilt lever.
Do it work?
Well, no, I'm going to get in here.
No, I'm saying, do the dust, do that work? Or?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
It's not, I had a guy that didn't have one, and he cut grass. And he had a pickup truck, and the door was always open. Well, he said his column started on fire. And I says, well, I've never seen a column start on fire, but I'd like to see it. So he brings it over, and the top of the column's all burnt. And I get in there, and I says, I don't know what you do for a living, but you either smoke weed or cut grass, because the inside of that column's full of grass. Yeah. I took it all out. He goes, well, how do I prevent that? I says, turn the music up, crack the windows, and close the door. You know? Well, then he told me that, you know, when he's done cutting the lawn, he uses air pressure and water on the back of the truck, and he blows out the deck, but he does it right by the side of the truck so he can listen to the radio.
Oh, wow.
Buy a Bluetooth
And you
hook it up to
you
your
don't
phone.
put nothing on these when you
No,
put them back in.
no,
You just...
no. So I'll show you real quick. As far as taking it apart and putting it together, you have to move the tilt lever, because what you're doing here, if you watch the jaws, you're collapsing the jaws right here. See how they go down?
Okay.
Okay, so you compress it and you wiggle this back and forth and it's out. Okay, so now the reason it's not moving is this old style 69 upper shaft is hung up on this race because of this part here. So this was stuck on the threads. So now if I do it, you're not going to have that problem with the other center section. See, there's a small pin that you don't want.
Okay.
So when you pull this out, you know, and you take the shaft, just you can take this apart. Yeah, this one's a little wore out. So when you put the new one on that you have, you take this out. Okay, now how do I put it on? Does it go like this or does it go like this? So when you're done, it's either 12 or 3. There's your notch at 12, okay? And you look on here, and there's your alignment pin for your steering wheel.
Okay.
That's at 12, okay? So it's gonna go, it doesn't line up, so it has to go to 3. Now, to know that it's right,
that one's cracking, ain't it, or what?
no, it's not cracked, but it's sloppy. That's why we're gonna replace it. So if you look at the notches, so this here is at 3 o'clock.
And how you know that it's at 3? You use this for alignment? The no, it's at...
Actually, it's 12. I miscalculated. So if you look here, this notch right here is at 12 o'clock. And you look here, and your alignment pin is right there at 12 o'clock. But if that's gone from tapping on it with a hammer, see how this one section is double wide?
Right.
On the spine, that's 12 o'clock.
Okay.
So I can, so what I put these together, and the guy's steering wheel's upside down. And I says, do you want to do it the fast way or the right way? The right way is take the column apart. The fast way is take the range iron off the car, and you've got 2 bolts. One is 5/16 and one is 3/8. Okay, drill the 5/16 out to 3/8, rotate it 180 and bolt it back together.
Ah.
You know, so.
Now I want to do it the right way.
So we're not going to use this. Yeah, and putting it back together.
Now see, this is what I'm trying to get off the paint.
Right, so you take these 4 screws out, you lift it off, and there's a snap ring in there. Okay, do not pound on this. I use the butt of a hammer like so and flatten it. I know you want me to take it apart, and we'll do that in a minute. So now I want to show you why. Take this out of here because we're going to replace it. So when you put this back in, you got to hook this up to that rod I just took out. So if you take this and you slide it on here, okay. Yeah, it's fighting me here because of the rack. I'm going to cheat. You don't, now it won't go up because it's not tilted. So what I do is I put this in here and I move the lever back and hold this with one hand and bring it up over the jaws, and now it'll move like this, okay? Now I take these 2 pins, put them back in here, and move this thing up and down. It fit. Now, if you tap on these pins, it's locked. You're done.
Okay.
So, okay, now you want that bowl off. You just wanted me to take this apart for you. You're going to come back in 2 weeks. Everything's going to be painted, your candy green or whatever, and you're going to go,
It's red. It's red.
How do I put this back together? Are you filming this now so you're watching?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you're cheating, see?
I hope. Yeah. Well, I watched to be honest, I watched a few YouTube videos, but I don't know if they know
tell
as
you
much as
they don't take this off to tighten the screws. So this is a T8, I believe it is, a Torx. When I put it back on, I've got Loctite right here, and all I do, you got to clean this. It's got to be clean. You can't have grease on it. I put a drop on each one, and I run it in there. And I would rather have you tighten that up by hand with a wrench and snug it up. You got to start all four of them at the same time. I've had these missing already where the screw's gone, where it was so loose it fell out.
Fell out.
Okay, yeah. So,
wow. A little red Loctite then.
Yep. Yeah, I've had it where, I'd fought a little, but I got it out. If I had to take it apart right away for some reason, I realized there was something else broken on the column, so that clip snaps in to the hole in the tube that I'm going to show you. So when I recondition the tubes, I sandblast them, I buff them, and I clear them. But the very top part of the thing, I don't put anything on it. I leave it bare metal because it's a very tight fit. So we're going to take...
You say you sand...
When we take it apart, I'll show you what... See, now, before we can take that apart, we have to take this bearing off down here. I have this new, too, the rubber and the little plastic thing. It just makes your linkage a little tighter.
Yeah, I was wondering about that, too.
This is the bearing I rebuild. Like this one, if you feel it, it galls a little bit. It's pretty dry inside. Put your hand inside. See how you can feel it?
Yeah.
Clunk, clunk. That's bad.
Okay. That's why I wanted to go through this.
Right. Well, people, well, does it really need it? It's pretty nice. Well, it's 50 years old. What is your body like in 50 years?
Well, I'm 60, and I know what mine is like, so.
Yeah, it was pretty good when you were 50, right? So this is a tool I made. There's a tool that this comes from Kent Moore. It goes in here, and there's a plate that goes across, and there's 2 screws that push it out. Well, I do enough of these that I made this. And what we're going to do is we're going to drive the tube out. You got to make sure this is the line, that it doesn't get hung up and you don't collapse the tube when you do that. So now, what you want to do, you can sandblast this and whatever and buff it and clear it so it looks like the one I showed you. I'm in the process of making this here. It keeps the dust out of the bottom. It's an ornamental thing. When you look under the car and see that, you'll see that nice gray shiny thing in there. You could probably cut one out of foam too. But when you're done with it and you're ready to put it in the car, take it back to the wire wheel and buff this, okay? Get this nice and clean, okay? And
can you paint these or just clear?
I clear coat them.
Clear coat.
Yeah, I sandblast them, I buff them with a wire wheel, and then I scrub them with thinner and a scuff pad. It gives it a uniform finish, and then I clear it.
Okay.
But up here, I don't want any clear on here. So when you get this buffed fresh with the buffer, and it's warm and it's clean metal, I put tranny fluid on there or oil. Oil's thinner than grease. Grease will actually bind up on you. And the trick I learned is I bought a hone because what happens when you put this back together is you got this bowl up here, okay, that goes on the shift tube. I'll explain which washer goes where and why. That inner one's got some grease on it, doesn't want to come out. So when you assemble this, the first thing that goes in is this wave washer, and I clean this and I grease it heavily, and I grease this. That's when you're shifting it. That's what makes the shift nice and smooth. Then the plate, then this, and then that snap ring we took off. Now, Look at this. You're going to say, does it go in like this or in like this? Well, you can see the witness mark of where this washer was. That might be gone when you clean it. This side here is very, very faintly countersunk from the way they threaded it. This side is, you can see it's not.
See. Right.
So the countersunk is the top. Okay. So here's the trick that I learned that really works well.
And then real quick, you say this bushing, this, and then this.
Right, and then there's that clip right here that goes on the top to hold it. That's what goes in these two slots on here.
Okay, this clip.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now you got your bowl all painted, you blasted it. You're gonna take this spring out of here and you're gonna put a punch in there. What I use, it's just laying here, I did one yesterday. I've got a punch and a piece of sheet metal. You can see I did it about 1,000 times on here, okay? And this goes in the hole, and then that piece of sheet metal fills the back of the hole so you don't fill it. I weld them, I solder them. So you can fill it, that's fine. But,
fill it with what now?
Well, when this is ground off, what
I
I do is
see what you're saying.
I grind it with a Rolock pad like this, 36 or 24 grit. Cut it off, grind it flat. Keep grinding it till your grinder marks like you're grinding a quarter panel. You got a couple of bumps you bumped out. Grind it till it's just grinder marks. And then DA it with 80 and feel it and make sure that it's flat because you're going to get one of these. And after you fill it, it's going to still be there. So once that's filled and it's painted, you're going to get the grease and everything out of the inside of this. Get it clean, both ends. And then you're going to go to put the thing on and it's not going to go. So you're going to take a hammer carefully and tap right here with a hammer and a screwdriver, and you're going to collapse that shaft. Well, then you're screwed. What do? Now it doesn't work. So I bought a ball cone. Then you can't take too much out. You go at this for a couple of minutes, and this is you probably won't have to do this again. All I suggest is when you're priming painting it, take a piece of 2-inch tape and cover the hole on both ends. Because when you're done with oil, you're ready to put this together. This one fights a little bit. I would sand it a little more. Once you buff this and get it clean, it'll slide easier. You don't want to have to beat this on.
Okay.
Okay, so that's it's not super tight. Once you get it cleaned up, it should be fine. Let's get a bag for the parts you need. Put this in here like so. That's upside down, but the parts are there for you anyway. Yeah, my hat's off to you that you tried. It's not rocket science, it really isn't. And if you take the time to learn,
if I can't get it right, I will bring it back. But I'm hoping that I should be able to. And then replacing these bearings, they just knock out and knock back in?
No, we're going to sell you a center section.
Oh, the center section, okay.
Okay, so this is yours. I talked about changing this for you. So this is pretty simple. And I broke a bunch of these playing with them, trying to figure it out. Catch that rods, because neither one of us wants to bend down. Get a smaller punch. So now you got a rod with we're going to put this other lever on here. So all you got to do on this is put it over the hole, and it doesn't go in there because it's crimped. If I bend those crimped edges back, they'll break because it's die cast, but we can stretch it enough. It's not far enough forward in the hole. That's all it is. Done.
And the difference between these two is what now?
The size of the pin, See, it's half the size.
Oh, yeah.
And then that slot. Between the slot and the pin, they actually, there, all the way in. It actually breaks a lot faster. So I'm going to give you a bag and throw these parts in here. If you're putting together and have a question, I can walk you through it. Just call me.
Okay.
So this here on a floor ship, you don't use this. You can take it off. It doesn't affect anything.
What
This
part?
plate right here, the 2 screws, that's your detent for your column shift.
And then just clean that up and re-grease
Yeah.
everything.
You don't have to grease any of that. Just clean it up. That's not something you grease.
You don't? Okay.
This is yours.
And then you're gonna sell me a new bushing.
Yeah. Okay. This you don't need. We're gonna trade. That you don't need. This you need. This you need. I think there's one on the other shaft, but I'll give you that. And the pins, the rod. I believe that's it. Yeah. Okay. So that's one bag. And let's. So the bearings, if you come over here and look, I use about 60% of them. So here's one that's prepped. So I blast it with a bead blaster, it's clean, and then I pop off the cover, which is where? Somewhere here are the covers. Anyway, it's no, those are just, see this one here, after it was blasted, this is junk. Okay, it was extremely rusty, the bearings don't move, I don't want to use that. This one spins real nice. So what I'll do is I'll repack this, and there's a dust shield. I gotta find one. So
And that's the one that goes on the bottom of the shelf.
Yep, so the trick is, here's a dust shield. These aren't painted yet, I paint these, but I put this on here and I can start it with my hand and I flip it over and tap it down, but I grease with a needle bearing greaser. I can grease this opening. I got a pneumatic one, and then I'll clean it off with a putty knife, and then I scrape it on here just like you do a wheel bearing with your hand until it's full, and then it runs real nice.
Is that any bearing grease or special grease?
I use the red high-tech. You can't get it off your hands. It really sticks.
The
hangs in there.
high temp?
It's high tack or high temp. Yeah, it's a wheel bearing grease. I don't have a tube of it here. I'd show you. But it's just a red high tack is what they call it.
Oh, okay.
It's a higher temperature. So let me get you a bearing that's done and assembled.
But you got the bearings greased already?
Oh yeah, they're done. You don't
They're
have to
greased.
touch that.
Okay.
What I'll do is I'll give you that cover and the adapter and everything, because I don't know if your adapter is any good. So. This is pressed. I've got an arbor press, but it's not set up yet. So I just use a vise. So now on the Jeep bearing, these crown cells, you can take this and it spins freely in here. If that's not held tight, the bearing's not going to work the way it's supposed to. Now feel that one compared to that one.
Yeah, I can tell the difference.
So if you take, your center shaft's 36 inches. So if you take, let's just say on a 1 to 10, this is about a 3. If you telescope that 36 inches, it's about a 12. You know, it multiplies as it goes. So this is the cover. I'm giving you one that's blasted and painted, and this is the clip. So you don't have to do that. Let's put it in a different bag though. Clean stuff.
So you just refurbished them then, huh?
Well, I can't buy them new.
Oh,
they were
okay.
$77, which is cost prohibitive when I could get them. They
Oh,
don't
okay.
make them anymore.
Okay.
So this here you got to cut and weld. So we don't need that.
Hold on, you said cut and weld.
Well, you got to cut this off.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to fill it. You're not going to
Yeah,
weld it. So
yeah,
the filler rod,
yeah.
I mean, if you want,
Yeah, I know how to. I know I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. But I mean, what I do is I put that pin in there and I fill it. It takes a whole rod and I melt it in there to fill the void, to fill the hole.
And you say I don't need this, or
No, that's what holds the lever. I would put a pin in there, a punch, and I'd put a piece of sheet metal in and clamp the sheet metal out here to fill the hole so there's a bottom to it. So when you use JB weld is what you want,
Okay.
or an epoxy,
Okay.
and let it dry overnight and then grind it and it'll stay. You can actually, if you ever use JB weld, you can actually drill a hole in it and tap it. It's that strong.
Right.
It's a good
Right.
product.
Okay.
But so when you weld that, what you find out is there's 5 degrees difference between fusing these two together and it just falling apart. And it's junk. I had a guy at Carlisle at a car show teach me how to do that. Grab that. I'm going to use this and this. This I don't need. This you can have. You need those. Yeah, you load a spring in it like so, and you put a pin in it like so, and the spring pops out like that. So set this down. So what I do, you can use a screwdriver. We'll see if I can do it with my hand. This small part is a ferrule, and there's notches on both sides. It doesn't matter how it goes in. So you slide that over the pin like so, and you hold it, and this pushes in and turns. So there you go.
Oh, wow.
So now on yours, it doesn't have notches in it, and it just takes a straight one. There's a little rib on here, and it pushes in and snaps in place. Well, that rib is real weak and it wears out,
Okay.
and eventually it's going to pop out. Well, then you got, you know, the part coming up into you know, pops up in your face and
Right.
falls apart. So let's grab a screwdriver. I'm just going to take, these bearings are all clean and done. I'm going to take them out of here. So what I do with these is I clean the old bearings and I use the jackets over. They're not broken.
Now this is for tilt steering wheel
Right,
here?
right.
So this has been redid.
Right.
How much do you charge for?
I'll give you a deal on it if you want to go this route. I would use, now 69 and 70 is not going to have that, so come over here and I'll show you. This has got everything in it done. So I charge 75 for this on a column. I do. I charge 100 a quarter out the door to sell it, but I give you the better price. So this isn't the right one, but you can look here how big that pin is, and it fits in there. And 69 and 70, go over here to find one. But here's the rack. See how small that is compared to that?
Right.
It breaks right here on the ends and falls apart. Then your car doesn't start. So this is a better setup. What I'm going to give you is all the rod lengths are different, and you can use either rack with the rod that's in your column. So if you look here,
Now I got the column in the car. Do that?
well, I can if you give me the rod, I can change it for you quick. So here's the 69 rod. Okay, it's got this. Well, this one isn't a good one to show. It is, I guess. So it's got the small pin on it, and they're brass, and this wears out. It comes to a point where there's nothing left of it. So I have this end with the big ball for 71 and up. I can just give you one of those, and all you do is you put this in the vise. And you can just pry this apart. Yours will have a hole here. You can put this in a vise and take a punch and punch it through, and then the rod comes out, and just slide it in the new one, tap it in, you're done. Or I can do that for you. But let me grab an end.
It actually looked like the column that was in there.
Yeah.
Somebody had went through this column already, but I'm pulling it apart so I can paint everything. Because I don't want to paint it.
Well, are you ADHD?
No, I learned.
No. ADHD is automobile dismantler and hoarding disorder. I heard that the other day, and I've sent it to probably 15 of my friends, and everybody said, "Oh my God, we figured it out." So this has got the big pin. It's die cast, not brass. It's stronger, and that rod goes in that hole. And you don't spread this apart. You just put the rod. I don't think I have a rod here empty. I've got some in there, but you just stand the rod under and tap it in with a hammer, and it pops right in. I can do it for you if you want. It's not hard.
All right.
That's going to give you a better setup. So if your rack is bent, the side of it, it's going to cost you $28 for the rack. It's going to cost you $45 for the bearings. So at $75 exchange for your center section, it's a good deal. It's ready to go. Okay, let's go. What we have up here. Why don't you bring the column in?
All right.